Hi everyone, let's start learning 9-3, which is all about angle relationships. First, let's do a quick review. What does this symbol mean? Do you remember? It means congruent. And congruent means that it's the same. If it's a side, it's the same length. If it's an angle, it's the same angle measure, same degrees. And vertex, remember vertex is that point right there. That's where the center of an angle is. And an angle is just where two rays meet each other at that vertex right there. So this is going to be fun. Okay, so let's look at the chart. Numbers 1 through 5 describe different types of angle pairs. Determine which marked angle pairs in the figures apply to each description, and then check the appropriate boxes. Okay, so let's start with number 1. For number 1, we're looking at the letter Z. And congruent angles, so let's go back just for a second. So congruent angles then are going to have the same marking. So if you have two different angles and they have the same marking, it means they are congruent. Okay, so let's go back. So congruent angles have the same measure. So let's look at that Z. I see the same marking at the top and the bottom, so that's true. I see another marked congruent angle pair in the letter X. That's true. In F, I see two angles that have that congruent symbol. Check. And that arrow is kind of hard to tell, but there is two congruent angles up at the top, right there. And that number 4 on the outer edges, I see two congruent angles. That's true. Now vertical angles. Vertical angles are opposite each other. And they're opposite each other when two lines intersect. So it could be something like this. Here and here. Those are opposite. Or here and here. Those are opposite when two lines intersect. In the case of Z, is that the intersection of two lines? No, it's not. That's not true. Okay, so we're actually going to just leave that blank. Let's look at X. Vertical angles opposite each other when two lines intersect. That is true. Okay, that's like right here and right here. That's exactly actually what the X is. F, those aren't opposite each other. That's not true. And our angle, those aren't opposite each other. That's not true. And number 4, they're not opposite each other, so that's not true either. So for number 2, we only have one answer. Number 3, adjacent angles are side by side with a common vertex and ray. Adjacent, well, think about what adjacent means in English, okay, in English class. Adjacent means next to each other. Okay? Two things that are next to each other are adjacent. So an adjacent angle, then, would be an angle, and then right next to it, it has a friend. Adjacent angles are side by side with a common vertex. Here's your vertex. And a common ray. Here's the common ray. So now let's look at what's true in our chart. For Z, are those congruent angles side by side? Nope. Let's leave it blank. Let's go here. X, are those adjacent? Nope. In F, those are next to each other. They meet up. They have a common vertex and ray. And at the arrow, they also share a common vertex and a ray. For number 4, they do have a common vertex right there and a common ray. That's true. So we have 3 that are true in number 3. Let's take a look at number 4. Let's go to green now. Complementary angles. The sum equals 90. Well, Z, I see two acute angles. Can I prove that they equal 90? No, I can't, so I'm going to leave that blank. For x, complementary, I cannot prove that those two, even though they look like acute angles, I can't prove that they equal 90. For f, they are next to each other, and they make a straight line right there. A straight line is not 90 degrees, so that's not true. The angle with the arrow. Let's take a look at that now, because that to me looks like a perfect 90-degree angle. So I think that those are complementary. For number 4, those do not make a 90-degree angle. Again, that ends up making a straight line. Well, guess what? That's what supplementary angles are. Supplementary angles are angles that add up to 180. So that means they're going to add up to a straight line. So they're going to share a vertex, they're going to share a ray, and that angle is going to be 180 degrees. For z, I can't prove it. For x, nope. For f, definitely that's a straight line. For the arrow, well, we've already proved that that's complementary, so it can't be supplementary at the same time. And 4, that also makes a straight line. And that's our chart, okay? So that's kind of an introduction to what we're going to be doing tomorrow in class. We're going to be practicing identifying congruent angles, vertical angles, adjacent angles, complementary angles, and supplementary angles. Now this think and discuss right here, that's what I want you to think about. Other examples of vertical angles in the real world. See if you can think of one, and if you do, I want you to write it on a piece of paper and share it in class tomorrow. Okay, have a good night. Bye.